Hello everyone. What does the lover say? Is the perfect title for today's episode. For we are not just lovers in how we exist. We are lovers in how we relate ourselves in nothing. Mankind has a great ability, which I find the whole world is looking at. And that is the ability of a being to individualize itself, to then re-look at itself. And what that means is we think we are eluded. Hopefully our consciousness technologies can evolve that language will be an immediate catalyst, and the passages in words really lead to what lies beyond the gates of action. You see, there are many mannerisms in which love can be displayed, but the essence of love is it does not discriminate. And so what the lover could say perhaps is that, where is the love? Because a man in love begins to be in a gentler world. He is accepting a reality where there's the possibility of a knowing beyond just this isolate sense of a vehicle this body feels. But every moment is to some degree a very profound alchemy of what can happen. I am learning this constantly. Constantly I'm learning from my humility. What that means is the minute I roar as if I am above others, the world treats me and puts me in my place. And I begin to see a tyrant to the people it had dominion over might have felt powerful, but in the spectrum of things, a man who is just focusing in one dimension of experience is also imbalanced. What that means is the same imbalance you find if you, let's say, if you were just running your whole life. Not that that's a problem. I mean, there are some great marathon runners. I'm blessed Terry Fox, but we want to balance ourselves in the manner that we can function in our most clear state of awareness. This is at first an interesting idea, but you must understand it must become more than an idea. That is why it is being spoken, because you must realize that it is not just the input you're receiving, it is what you're doing with the input, it is the awareness, it is the witness to all that is happening in your moment of experience. You calibrate, you assign, and you associate, and at the same time you let go. Your freedom seems to be in your hand, but questions seem to want certain answers. What a lover of this life would say to you is that you cannot shape the love that is present in this reality. What that means is you are a multidimensional being in both how you are actually present, but at the same time in regards to how you're aware of yourself. What that means is some part of this universal sector energy has found a manner to become aware of itself, and this awareness is us. And now we are this individual projection, and how far do we want to go beyond our own eyes? You see, the wisdom of sight too prevails in its absence. What that means is you should not try to see, you should be aware of the seeing. You should be aware of the seer. You should be aware of the presence that can call itself any name, that can become any idea, but its awareness is beyond the ideology, and that is why it is a master craftsman. You have been living. Whatever amount of age you have, you're alive, you are alive. The beacon is lit, the light is here, you are aware of many things. Now you need to engage, and as you engage, you, in a sense, I don't want to, at first I'm going to say, Mr. Within is going to say, you're going to enhance your life energies, but you are not enhancing it. You're just becoming aware of what is present, and it's more than just a grace of a lack of movement. What that means is the silence and stillness becomes a very great, graceful sanctuary. But once you're there, you begin to see that you have a sense of collective view. What that means is you won't leave anyone out, especially yourself. You are mindful. You're mindful of what you say to other, but also what you have said to self. For sometimes my greatest enemy was the person in the mirror who was so convinced of its failure. And I could never understand how to get rid of a past so heavy, but it seemed that light never needed the interpretation of the shadow. Of course, I am communicating now in regards to how a mystic's view is present, because in our seriousness we are acknowledging the unknown and the temporal nature of this reality, but in our playfulness we are observing that acknowledgement and seeing the observer, that which is witnessing all that is occurring within your present moment, is situated beyond space and time because it's considering space and time. What that means is just like how you may be holding an apple, whether it belongs to Eve or Newton, you need to see that the seeds of understanding are beyond the design of the fruitful endeavor. Your ambition is diving you deeper into the quest of moving beyond all question. Transcendence is truly a beautiful thing, and it comes in the way you are, I find a person acknowledges his presence when his vision of self and other have become so transparent that there is no need to discriminate. What that means is you as a being are existentially comfortable with all that is. But at the same time, you have been designed in a certain way, and so you continue on as you have been designed. It does not mean hide under ignorance. It means that there is no ignorance, for the assumption is that we are open in understanding all human action. So the love is the love that you see within your world that is also present within you. And this presence is beyond the conception that can even experience failure. Does man really want to think about failure his whole life when we are here to enhance the human species? What that means is now we have a much more better chance of enhancing the human species. And it might be hard changing a lot of the, let's say, economical mistakes we've made, and how our current systems are not perhaps the healthiest thing for the planet. We must see that the health of humanity must not be touched. What that means is we must find that natural sense of being alive that is not bothered by ideology. So what that means is you can hear anyone's conversation and you are so mindful, you are not banging the door of reaction to immediately respond. You're just so mindful that in the silence their words are given infinite meaning. And so you're basking in the music that is every aspect of the world of form aware of itself. Your consciousness is the profundity of your movement. What that means is, regardless, even if you're a dictator and your dictation is limiting certain people through limiting beliefs, you need to see that even that being who was being a tyrant was an expression of manifestation. Life does not judge you in how you exist, but you judge yourself in how you are aware of your existence. Because the judgment is there suggesting that you still have not found the absolute. Because the absolute cannot be there by judgment. Because in the realm of judgment, whatever part of the spectrum and polarity you choose, you, in a sense, how do I say it? You're putting yourself in the game of always trying to seek the other side. So what that means is if I just try to be a happy guy my whole life, I'll begin to see, gosh, there'll be moments that I'll be like, gosh, this is not that happy, because the experience of life is changing. Similarly, if I say I'm just a bad guy, or let's say I'm just an angry guy, I'm not happy, I'm just sad and depressed, you'd see that experience would continue, but eventually the changes in life and how not only your biological system is changing, but the social, the constructions of the greatest inventions of social phenomena and cultural phenomena have come to the doorstep of inspiring a new renaissance of how consciousness looks at reality and says, all right, I see where the human idea went wrong, but me as the awareness and the allowance of the evolution and transcendence of the being that I am would let this seed grow in the light of this existential, compassionate realm of intelligence. What that means is, to some beings, gifts could be things that they're expecting Santa Claus to bring, or it can be something where the gift is in how there is a beauty in the self-awareness and the existential intelligence you are. What that means is, I can totally understand if you judge your name and who you are, but judging natural design, how dare you talk to life like this? Life is beautifully present, and you are present within the beauty of life, simply said. So you don't have to change things because everything is changing. What that means is, for example, tattoos are a great symbol of the artistic talent of man to capture image on his physical body, but at the same time, you will see that that choice to have a tattoo is a change. But everything in reality is changing. What that means is our interpretation of the change is just how our individual consciousness kept. And some people get a bit, kind of like surprised. They're like, wait a minute, so what happens after individual consciousness goes to collective consciousness? The answer is nothing happens. And that's why you see the intelligence is beyond no thing. The thingness of it is based on how you were oriented, and in a sense, if I was to jump into a pool in a pool party, I would see that same randomity and spontaneity of how I would land in that water is the same randomity and spontaneity of how my DNA has come to bring my face here in this conscious form. What that means is the consciousness is the ability, because the consciousness is the awareness to space and time, but the body is always entrapped in the deeper considerations of the space and time in regards to a subjective presence. What that means is man must be aware of his physical body, of his objective body, but man must also be aware of his subjective body. What that means is the awareness to both of these is beyond the realm of duality that can even conceive time. So there's one view where we're like, oh, there's, externally there's extraterrestrials and they're very advanced and we have this attitude. But on another level, the mystic looks at it and sees that the nature of consciousness is not based on a need for a story. What that means is you are never the character, but the intelligence of the character is always present. What that means is, regardless of how much I want to judge the natural shape of how I have sprouted into this existence, regardless, I cannot touch the nature of change within this universe. And perhaps this is the beauty that the human experience is here to, in a sense, really appreciate and learn from. The grace of how we are basking in the love of intelligence. We are in existence. And we look at non-existence and we arrogantly say, oh, it doesn't exist. Because we choose to become certain, because certainty was a survival on a certain range of interpretation. But how you're aware of things changes, because you can go sit in the highway and try to have deep thoughts, deep self-contemplation, or actually it doesn't have to be deep, just simple natural awareness. You begin to see, if you go in nature, the environment is different. So you must similarly realize that the awareness to your memories are constantly reshaping your environment. You're a dynamic system, not just a set of snapshots from the past that are being judged, and you're assuming the present is here because you see it. Our sensory perception is I don't want to say a codex, but once you become aware of it, you will see that health is also a new opportunity for form to be present. So in novelty, genius is not lurking around, but is actually the gardener that planted seeds he knew he would seeds to trees, planted trees that he knew he was not going to sit under. Because the intelligence is transcendental, because the awareness to the change turns to such a degree where the ideologies, interpretation, and simply your awareness as a conscious being to your world cannot contain an idea. What that means is, oh, that moment where accidentally my hand hit the jar and that container of how space and time was kept and my conditioning, in a sense, was fed to me like a cookie, the jar broke. And as the jar broke, the container broke, there was no longer a need to contain knowledge, but to learn from the natural ability of the human being to be existential observance of how it is. You are always an awareness to how you are. There's a profundity here. There's a clarity that is not hindered by the personality, for it has found its presence. And in such presence, in such omniscient findings, an individual could never be lost, but to be the perfect placement of how the origination of the awareness began. What that means is many poets and sages have suggested that we are visitors to this plane of existence. And so just like how you enter, and let's say you visit your friend's house, or you visit a friend you haven't seen in a while, you enter the house, you enter the space. And after you're here, and after the nice party and whatever that happens, you see as you're leaving, do you see? You're aware where you took off your shoes, for example. You're aware of how you entered this room of form. And so the awareness to form is the self-inquiry that does not set man free, but sets man free from the conception of freedom having to be shaped in a certain space and time. What that means is, right before, bless my Martin Luther King, he saw the awareness and he began to bring the lesson that was needed then of getting rid of physical discrimination in regards to having a greater freedom for human opportunity all over the planet. But at the same time, you begin to see now we are in a new era, and the freedom has to be a freedom beyond an ideology, for ideology is being scared to a point that it is not looking at what is here. Or in a sense, it is, but the transparency of the clarity of the actual knowing of the knower of the moment of being is not there, for there is still a conception of a there. Henry David Thoreau had this very nice quote, and he says, "It is not what you look at that matters, it's what you see." So similarly, it's not how space and time has been experienced by other human beings. It's rather how your direct experience is its own flow, as it has always been. For sages in the past have also said nature was never late. Blessings to the being that became such a lover that the lover didn't have to say anything. It was the love beyond duality, beyond a shape that could be judged, beyond a lack of uncertainty. You think you as a being are able to get a sense of great knowing and profound uncertainty through form. You don't think you can have it through a formless view? Your nature is multidimensional, for you are an evolving being, and transcendence is the projection of the conscious reality constantly evolving as there's an integrative and fractal realization of how the roots of this universal sector are planted in this soil of manifestation. I would like to share some beautiful quotes. And the first one is by Rumi. And he says, "The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind I was." Lovers don't finally meet someone. They're in each other all along. The profundity of what this passage suggests is a passage into an understanding that regardless of who your lover is, whether it's the beauty of the girl of your dreams that is going to awaken you, or the beauty of any partner, or the beauty of you being in love with this world. But what you realize is that lovers don't finally meet somewhere, they're in each other all along. That moment of presence when members of a community come together, when lovers come together, you begin to see within that moment there is an acknowledgement of life that is unspeakable, untouchable, but a feeling of fullness in regards to how a being knows beauty when it sees it. And similarly, for many seekers of a spiritual nature, you begin to see their existential longing will take them to a point where realization will not be an answer to a question or a response to a condition. But it will be a moment when the individual is aware of the collective, and the collective is aware of the individual. And that knowing is an experiential intelligence that cannot be discriminated. It is a transcendental knowing within the vastness of the life that we are. For once man looks deeply at man, even the cells on the body will be portals of remembrance of the world of worlds you have been to be here. Man might have to do a lot of work to get where it is, but for consciousness to be conscious in this physical manner, to even doubt its physicality, is an existential platform that has been a long journey of focus into manifestation. Because this idea of an individual consciousness and collective consciousness, as you go into certain states of intuitive self-awareness, it's really nothing to talk about, but you kind of go into this flow where you just know what must be present within the moment. And if you trust life, you will see that life will trust you, and your experience will guide itself out. The visitor will leave the place of visit just as how the entrance was the exit. And this elegance is not to even make you think that you need to think about this, but to realize that regardless of whatever thinking, the profundity of man and this existential love is this life. We are a present moment of experience. And as you breathe in, you shall see that you're aware that you breathe in. And as you breathe out, you're aware that you breathe out. You're aware of how there's an alignment of a subjective linear reasoning and projection of mental assumption, but at the same time, it's all present here. And what that means is the way objective experience and subjective experience are intertwined is by how both are present through the intelligence of the experiencer beyond shapes that can be shaped into language. Tranquility of being is always present. We are not here to have just interesting stories. We are here to realize the purpose of all purpose. And it leads to a realm of understanding that is experiential. So some problems in life cannot, we don't even need to call them problems. Some experiences of life are the way they are regardless of consideration of right or wrong, because that is how life is moving. What that means is just like how a drop of water is moving in that river, it's in a dynamic state of existential movement. So is man. Just because I am not walking and I'm sitting down, it does not mean the cosmos is not moving. And what is the cosmos? It is the complete awareness of the mind, because it is from the mind that we're aware of things, it seems. So if we were to become aware of everywhere this body could go, it would all come down to a complete awareness of all that the mind can contain. And you see that the mind, its edges have no container, because the quality of observance shifts. You know, it's as if some platforms are transcendental, and as you're there, your nature is there. So it's like you don't have, just like how you perhaps know how to walk, you know, and you're not bothered by trying to think, oh, I gotta take this step, this foot, this foot. Similarly, you will tap into senses and states of, I guess, self-awareness in regards to how the pilot of consciousness is navigating within such a realms of abstraction, as playfully said now. We are doing something to then be present among all that is being done. However, all that is being done is always present. And so ignorance can immediately be like that blindfold you took off, you know, because it wasn't a good blindfold, you know. And it's very important to have your eyes open when you're walking over Niagara Falls on just a rope. It's also very important to realize, guys, that the reason Mr. Within is suggesting seek beyond a character in a story is because a story is really how communication is being received by mankind for now. But there's an intelligence beyond the story. Another quote I would like to share is a very interesting quote by Plato. And he says, there are three classes of men. And of course, this we could just see it as people, any kind of people. And he says, lovers of wisdom, lovers of honor, and lovers of gain. And what that means is you can immediately see lovers of wisdom is a spectrum of the human being acknowledging its absence and its sense of emptiness that is giving it a wisdom of how life is fulfilled or fulfilling. And at the same time, we have the other end of the spectrum where there's lovers of gain, beings who are going towards form and just gravitating towards the desire of just getting an experience through form, And lovers of honor perhaps could be the bridge in between of how, if you were to shift between a sense of formless sense of being and a formed sense of being, the honor would be the intention of even having the consideration. And in a sense, seeing that consideration is present through all. Kind of like, I guess, if I could politically say, discovering an eternal value that your being has always acknowledged, even though consciously your personality had no idea. For the lovers of wisdom, lovers of honor, and lovers of gain are all still lovers of life. And not that we should forgive, not that we should just forgive or forget, but we should forgive and remember, because our forgiveness is found, how do I say it, to be meaningful based on where its application, how do I say it? But of course we don't need to get into it here. Let's just forgive and forget. To continue. It all comes down to how you're looking at it. Beyond segmentation, classification. What the lovers can say is nothing that they have not already said. For life is giving itself to life to see the beauty and the greatness of how it's alive. And of course there are some people who are lovers of sleep who they really, they need sleep. The other day online I've even seen it go far as people calling it a bedgasm. That feeling where you just love your bed. I hope this talk has served you, but realize that you're the only one who can truly serve yourself, because you are aware that you're aware. Much blessings and namaste.